I'm the chair of the Weston County Republican Party, and the Weston County Republican Party believes in an open and transparent government. So that's why we planned all of these candidate forums, and we thought it was very important to do one for the Board of Education as well, because it's my firm belief that if you can put your eyes on a candidate and talk to them yourself, then when you go to the voting booth, you'll be able to make the right decision on who best represents you. So I thank you, all the candidates, for coming out tonight, and I thank all of you for coming out tonight. So if we could start with an invocation. Pastor May, would you lead us?
Let's bow our hearts before the Lord. Father, we know tonight as we come into this place how important education is. And Lord, we want those who will represent us and our children the best. So Lord, help these men who are up here to give us, Lord, what they really believe. And that God, we're going to have good discernment as we go to the polls. And that Lord, we will have the right people in the right place for this season. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen. Thank you, Pastor May. Roger, would you lead us in the pledge?
Certainly will.
I pledge allegiance to America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, liberty, and justice for all.
Thank you. All right. So I gave you all a handout today with some upcoming events. I just wanted you to have something in your hand with all of the candidates' names on them, so when they speak to you, you can put names with faces. So that was the I also listed some of the upcoming Republican Party. Monday or Tuesday? Of the month. The format of those will be basically interactive, and anyone who serves on a board or commission, we have them come and give reports from all the other boards and commissions and things that are going on in town. So if you come to those meetings, you'll have a pretty good understanding of what is going on all the different boards and commissions, and hopefully Weston County commissioners and the city council and all of that. Hopefully it's working. I've been told it's not the Board of Ed. I'm sorry, it's the county school board of trustees. All right. So that's right. All right. So tonight's format, I asked all of the candidates if they could give you a 3-minute introduction of themselves and why they are running for the board, and then we're going to open it up to the audience for questions. I have a bunch of questions that were submitted to me by people who didn't want to talk in a public meeting, so they asked for that. And I also apologize to you for me as your moderator, because I put out the call to several other people and they all fell through, so you have me, your moderator. So if you have any questions that you'd like to ask, when we get to that point, I'll just ask you to come up and then you can ask your questions to one candidate or all of the candidates or whatever you choose. I also have questions, again, that were submitted to me by email, and I did solicit some questions from Tom Kelly, who was a nominee for the Superintendent of Public Instruction, and he submitted some really great questions that'll get y'all thinking. So, all right. So without further ado, we do have 11 candidates running for 4 open positions, and we have 7 candidates who joined us today. So I thank you to all of you who joined us today. It's really important that we hear what you have to say. So I'm going to turn it over to you. So we'll start with Paul.
Thank you, Carrie. Appreciate you holding this one. I appreciate all of you folks coming out tonight. I figured it was going to be a packed crowd, and I'm glad, because education for kids, they are important. So I appreciate you all coming out this evening. My name is Paul Bowden. I'm running for school board, or trustee, whatever you care to call it. I don't have a prepared statement tonight because nothing can prepare me for what you might ask me tonight. I've been told that I'm a little bit controversial, and if being honest, fair, and transparent makes you controversial, so be it, I am. I'm not afraid to speak truth to power, so if you don't agree with that, well, it is what it is. If you have any question of me, I will tell you directly what I think. I don't want any misunderstanding. I will be honest, I will be transparent, and if you don't like it, change my mind. Let's have a discussion. If you want to meet me on the battlefield of ideas, I'm more than glad to meet you there, and when we're done, let's shake hands and go home. There's nothing wrong with having disagreements. I know all the members of the current board, and I like most of them. I think they're fabulous people. It doesn't mean that we can't disagree vehemently about things. We can all be adults. We can all have discussions because these are our children. So if you think things are going great, I'm not your guy. If you think it's time for a change, I would appreciate your vote. Thank you.
Hello. Most of you probably don't know me. I'm new to New Jackson. My name is Stephen Gale. I've lived here for about a year now, and I've gotten pretty involved in the community because this and being for the school board is basically why me and my wife came here. You know, we have 2 children in elementary school, and we came over here because we were not happy with, you know, the education system and the environment that our children were being raised in Gillette. You know, I'm a Wyoming native, you know, been born and raised here, you know, down in Raleigh. So, you know, I'm extremely passionate about, you know, serving our community. And you know, from what I understand, and I've been digging into, you know, the current school board has, you know, done some really good things. I mean, I just was reading the article about the farm to table, you know, stuff, and I mean, I 100% agree with that. So I don't have anything against any of the current candidates that are current board. Everybody should step up and serve. You know, everybody needs to take it. So that's what I'm doing. I'm out here to serve and, you know, and make sure that, you know, we're putting our children first. Thank you.
Thank you, Steve. Next up.
I didn't want to do that.
Next up is Sean Crabtree.
Well, most of you know me. I'm Sean Crabtree. I've lived here most of my life for at least 47 and a half years. I lived in Florida for a year and a half when I was a kid. That's a heck of a culture shock from going from Osage, Wyoming to Florida. Right now. One of the main reasons that I'm getting on the school board is people, we live in some different times. If you see the news, you see what's happening to these kids in other states. Kids can't be kids really anymore. You got their parents, you got teachers, someone telling them that they can be, it's okay to be a boy, it's okay to be a girl. I don't think that's right. God made us to be man and woman, and I believe that He made Adam and Eve, and I'm not going to let you know anything about that. But anyway, I'm just letting you guys know that I'm running for the school board because there is a lot of change, and there is some stuff that I've heard that are in other states, also in Wyoming itself. And we're a very conservative state, and I believe that. And some of the other ideas that are coming into our schools, I'm not for. So if you think I'm for the changing the men and the women's bathroom, I'm not. I mean, men are men, women are women. That's how I feel. So I'm here for the kids. I've been the head wrestling coach here for 5 years. I had a good relationship with a lot of kids. I've had a relationship, and I still do to this day, with troubled kids that mom and dad wouldn't take the time to spend with them. I've been the focus with 3 or 4 kids that had meetings with the state because they were troubled. You got parents that can't get their lives figured out, and you need to help them out. And you don't realize it until you're involved in something like that, because there's a lot of troubled kids out there. Just from what I hear, sometimes we feed anywhere from 78 to 82 kids at the elementary. Maybe I'm wrong, it's just what I heard. So that's telling me that we need to get together and we need to fight for the kids in school, because when they get home, they don't have a voice. The only voice they have is the teachers at the school. And I've seen it firsthand. I've had kids where people say, why'd you let him stay the night in your house? I've known him to steal. You know, if they steal, we'll deal with it. But they respected me, and I've had a good relationship. A lot of them went on, and they turned out to be some hellions. But I tell you what, there's a lot of them now. I just hired one the other day that he was a troublemaking kid in school, but he's 22 years now, and he's trying to change his life around. And you got to give a kid a second chance. The bottom line, people. You just can't put any kid on the back burner. I've seen it 100 times in sports, in school, where I know a lot of teachers take some of these kids under their wing. And but you can't do it all. We need help. I mean, I just can't stress it enough, to be honest with you. It breaks my heart to see what's going on in the world and what some of these parents do to their kids. But you can't, it's hard to change a parent. Some parents just don't want to be parents. So that's where the school comes in. So that's one of the reasons why I'm
Is top priority.
Many of you know me. I graduated grew up here in Newcastle, graduated from the Newcastle High, University of Wyoming, graduated there 2 years in the Army, went to Vietnam, came home and ranched with my family south of town. I'd like to emphasize raised the 2 daughters, one of which was here, is here, and for making a nice home, and get the green comfort to be able to do some other things. I have a couple things about school. Number one, and we all know this, but we need to be reminded that it isn't something that's a one-time shot. We don't get that, we open the year and fill it out. It's a continuing process, and hopefully it goes on after you graduate here. And we prepare you to go on to keep learning. Number 2, it's really about the people. And we've got some outstanding people, a lot of them in the school. And I think it's important to recruit them, to make sure they feel comfortable and loved here and appreciate what they do, and say thank you to them, and see that those outstanding people are in front of kids. And that's the main focus I have. I would tell you that I've served for several terms. I'm not running to be the board historian or the community school historian, because things change. And it's really important that we look at the things that come up from the board with a little eye to what used to be, but an important eye to what we do now for kids, for parents, for our tools that we have to teach with, and that we want from them. I thank you for your support very much.
Next up, Joe Crown.
Not real good at speaking in front of people, so excuse me for that. Joe Brell, I'm a 2001 graduate from Newcastle. I was 5 years in the Navy and I came back. My family was raised in Newcastle. For the most part, my father and Navy, and of course, all our relatives. Not necessarily running on any agenda to speak of. I'm pretty sure everybody here and everybody on support pretty much has the same ideas when it comes to not letting the new ideas that's happening in the rest of the world come into our school. I do want to say I'm big on disagreeing, but also trying to come to a compromise with everybody. I mean, there's consequences to every action that we have, and I think we got to think through those things before we just make a quick judgment. One of the things that did make me run, I started a basketball program here in Newcastle last year with Coach Bonine, and we spoke at a school board meeting in detail about this. And me and Coach Bonine talked big about this, and he was pride in our school and pride in our community. That's really what I want to bring back to this town. Everybody wants to see this town grow and flourish from with our community, and I'd like to see graduate. If we keep people here, the ideas that stay here. Yeah, that's it. Thank you.
Next up is Stanley Jazinski.
Sorry, it's not like I'm sorry. How's everybody doing tonight? My name is Stanley Jazinski, and I'd like to thank the Weston County RNC Committee for putting on this meet and greet and giving me the opportunity to trust the good folks of Weston County. Let me tell you why I chose to run for the school board and how I can benefit the students in school here in District 1. Over the last several years, I have worked to understand what's been taking place within our public school system in our country, state, and county. What I have found is, like most of the public and private sectors within our country, our public school system is fundamentally flawed starting at the top. The spread of problem from Marxist ideology over 40+ years today has spread into all our institutions and has seeped down into our public school system. It manifests itself in the form of critical race theory, the 1619 social and emotional learning, and gender and sexual differences. These ideologies are attacking the nuclear family. At the center of these attacks are the children and students of our country and county. If you destroy the family hierarchy, the mother and father, the sons and daughters of the family must turn elsewhere for support. In the Marxism, that would be the government. In the public school system, it would be the teachers. How do these toxic ideologies find their way from the top, i.e. the federal government, our universities, and national education and teachers associations, to our students here in the state and county? I believe it comes from grants taken from the government and institutions I just outlined. In some cases, it comes from teachers who have succumbed to the indoctrination they experience within the universities and educational associations they attend and are part of. Contained within these grants are mandates, which schools must adhere to. And within these mandates, you'll find curriculum from social, emotional, learning, self, which is a blend of critical race theory, sexual, and gender ideologies. The Weston County School Administration has taken $1.3 billion for 2022 and 2023 in such grants, and has a budget which is larger than that of Weston County and the approximate 7,000 residents it governs. Our school system is not exempt from these mandates, which come with these grants. And as a result, I believe social and emotional learning is incorporated into our schools' curriculums. If the school or schools with the largest budget, Wyoming now spends $20,000 a year per student, rated third or fourth highest in the nation, translated into educational benefits for our students, they would be graduating with much higher proficiency levels than the 38 to 40% they now graduate. These grants do not serve the students. They serve only the bureaucracy which now runs our school administrations. In our schools, we have dedicated teachers who care deeply and honor their profession by staying within the boundaries of teaching, reading, writing, arithmetic, science, and biology, and do not push their social and sexual ideologies on their students. But sadly, we have those teachers who do, and this is unacceptable. We have great sports and after-school programs, which are key components of an educational system, allowing students to compete, strategize, form goals, learn team spirit, and rewards for individual achievements, giving them chances at scholarships for college. Weston County has modernized and updated our schools, providing students the environment and tools necessary. Here are some examples that I would work for as a member of the school board. I will serve the students, parents, taxpayers of Weston County, not the governmental or associates-driven bureaucracy who run our schools. I believe in parental rights, and our schools should be a place for traveling for students, safe from social and sexual ideologies, and the toxic waste they're exposed to on social media. But our primary purpose is to teach them to learn, live, and prosper once they graduate. I will attend school board meetings and listen to the parents' feedback and advocate for the things they hold most dear. I am retired. I will spend time within our schools to better understand their workings and what is being taught and important doing that. I will be an advocate against critical race theory and gender ideologies like social emotional learning from being taught in schools. I believe each school day should start with the Pledge of Allegiance. I believe the only flag displayed in our schools should be the American flag. I believe the school of choice, charter schools, and the money. I believe in fiscal responsibility. I do not believe in gun-free zones, and believe teachers who are proficient in the use of firearms should be able to practice their Second Amendment right to bear arms if they so choose. In closing, I offer you this. During my almost 30 years of service to my country and community, which includes 4 years of active duty in the United States Air Force as a security police specialist, my time as a firefighter in the Air Force Reserves, along with my career as a firefighter, and as the president of the Northern Firefighters Union Local for up to 10 years, leading up to my retirement. I've helped develop the skills needed to prepare me for this position of the Board of Education or school board staff. In all these positions, I have learned how to serve and put the mission above myself. I've placed other people's lives and problems above my own. I have been a mentor, a teacher. I've learned to prioritize what's important, how to be a leader. I've negotiated contracts, mediated grievances, and advocated for those in my leadership. If elected, I will use these skills, life principles, and leadership qualities as a guide to help me be an effective member of the school board, your District 1. I thank you for listening to my statement here today. I hope you consider voting for me on November 8th. God bless America.
Thank you. Next up is Dr. Mellis.
My name is Kevin Mills. I was proud to be invited to speak to this event for this morning. I'm a Newcastle alumni of 2005. My family has been associated with the Newcastle School since the 1950s. My grandparents both graduated in 58, my father in 77, my mother in 85. My grandfather and dad, after doing their service in the Navy, both were bus drivers for the district on both activities and everyday bus routes. Within our family legacy of driving, me as a kid, I was privy to enjoy and learn how the buses were run and what was required from the driver and of the students, not only for DOT rules and regulations, but also for the safety of everyone on board. My learning did not stop there. My grandfather also ran the statute books for numerous sports, including football, basketball, and track. I learned not only from being in sports, but watching my grandfather do the stats of sports, the work ethic of our coaches, our staff, and the team that they had presented. I learned that everyday endeavors in life, when presented, can be a team effort. And that is what school board is. It's a team. I learned a team is where problems and issues present themselves and they work towards a better and most positive outcome for all the student body of Weston County. I also learned a few key factors from my grandfather when he was elected to the board in 2000. He has never been one to discriminate against anyone. He has also kept his own self-interest in his decision making, one trait that I can say that I maintain today. He was always there to benefit the kids, no matter the circumstances. Another quality that I truly believe in. I joined the Navy after school and furthered my learning not only in a certain skill set, but learned from the group it can come to the greatest outcome for all. I'm proud of the values that were not only instilled in me, but were brought up and cultivated by the Navy in honor, courage, and commitment. The main hope of a nation lies in the proper education of the youth. Some Greek philosopher said that, and I cannot pronounce his name to save my life. I want to see it, I will gladly give you a name. As board member, I believe in doing the best for all, the students, the parents, and the staff. I'm a parent right now to a wonderful daughter in grade school and stepchildren who I have in high school. Some things are coming, and some have already presented themselves before us, and they need strong voices to challenge and or question these ideological reasons. I'm talking about critical race theory, our preferred pronouns, bathroom and gender affiliations, not only in sports, but in our normal activities in day-to-day school. The voices on the left are not here to tell you the main thing about CRT, but its basic resolve is to say that every American institution, whether it be a healthcare system, a school, even our current libraries, are made in some form of being racist and or another. It tries to erase, no more so change, the way our history of the nation is taught. It has no logic, no reason to be taught. And I know there's some ways that they are sneaking them into our schools is in the common library. I don't call it critical race theory, but it is there. It also depends on our websites that our students might be using while they're doing research papers, whether it be from the American Civil War to our American healthcare system. This is truly unacceptable. Preferred pronouns have already been an issue. I know that it has upset a majority of our community, and we did not get the answers that we require as parents in regard to some of our current district members. I'm not saying that our current district members have not done a great job. I grew up with most of them on the school board, and I can say that they have done a wonderful job when it comes to the students. This kind of schooling in our student adolescent years should be a time of learning basic knowledge, the 3 R's, reading, writing, and arithmetic. Since our installation of laptops in the middle school and high school, our children have almost lost the ability to read common handwriting, let alone be able to write legibly themselves. Where did he go? We need to go back to the basics. COVID was a blessing in disguise. Not saying that it was completely not bad, but when students went home, parents took over the workload for the teachers. And I know in one area that they went back to simple math. They got rid of Common Core because us as parents did not know how to use Common Core. And guess what? I want to say the grade school average of people that were able to do math in their head raised tremendously. I would like to actually see our scores go up in all 3 categories and more. Gender identity in the classroom and sports have also hit Wyoming. Not here in Newcastle, but in Wyoming. It's just a matter of time before it does come here. I grew up and still believe in 2 sexes, 2 bathrooms without a litter box. And if you did not know about the litter box, Spearfish has installed litter boxes in their closets or in their bathrooms because some people decide to identify as cats or dogs. Your DNA does not change regardless of surgery. Our students should not have to make that kind of decision during their youthful years. I have no problem people will associate that way, as I know many, multiple people in the LGBT community. But these people who I know feel the same way as any of us here. I'm not against anyone in this category, but it does not need to be an issue within our district. If I am here, if elected to represent you as community members to make sure that our children get the best education and support they need to succeed after graduation. I'm here for the students and parents alike in keeping these issues out of our schools and have the moral backbone to try and make it happen from the support of the other board members. This is a group effort to educate and not indoctrinate the children. I would be proud to represent our district and the community on the school board. Education is not a line item, it's the only item.
Thank you, Jonathan. So at this point, I do have questions that were submitted, and, but I would like to open it up to the audience at any time. This is your forum to get your questions answered, so please, whenever you have a question, just come on up and ask a question. Does anyone want to start? All right. So this question was submitted by Dr. Tom Kelly, who was a candidate for the superintendent of public instruction. What role should parents have in the day-to-day operations of schools and classrooms? Do you want to start, Paul? So the question is, what role should parents have in the day-to-day operations of schools and classrooms?
I want to describe what those are in our district, like a ship. Let's see, you've got ship, cabin crew, passengers. Our kids are the passengers. We have our ship, we have the captain, we have the crew. We're all trying to get to the end, right? Well, what happens is our parents get confused as to which way the ship is going, right? So our job as parents are to get our kids there. And once we get them there, our job is to know what the school is teaching. Micromanagement never, ever works, whether it's in public schools or in private sector, anything. So going back to my ship analogy, if you've got this ship and the Cadillac along and everything's fine, everything's fine. But when anybody on that ship screams iceberg dead ahead, I don't care if it's the captain, I don't care if it's a crew member, I don't care if it's one of the kids down in third class, you better pay attention. And when the parents hear about what's going on in the school, the district had better take note when we're upset. And they better talk to us about what's going on and what they're going to do to fix it. 99% of the problems that we have is because of lack of communication. So our day-to-day job is to get our kids there, get them home, and ask them how they're doing. The school's job is to teach them the basics and keep them safe while they're there. So as far as what's going on in the classroom, as long as you're teaching my child what they need to know to be a productive member of society, I'm not going to say anything. I'm going to thank you. We've got great teachers in this district, for the most part. We have great students and staff members that help those kids get there. But we also have areas where the micromanagement has taken hold and is working really hard against those good people that we have in our district. So if somebody else asks for it, I don't care if they follow the chain of command at the top, we need to fix it. As parents, it's our job to elect the school board to do that. That's our job. That's our day-to-day management, electing people that stay on top of what's going on in our schools.
I agree with most of that. Except I believe that as a parent, it's my job to supplement the education that my kids get. So when my kids come home every day, yes, I ask them, how was school? And I usually give the, oh, it was good. It was fun. And then I have to start digging. So what did you do? What did you learn? What did you pick up? How was math? How was your spelling test? What? Oh, you missed one spelling test. Well, that one. And so, me and my wife both said, we supplement the education of our children. We sit down and we sit, spend a couple hours every day with them, to go over their schoolwork, and I think that's very important. Now, if I have a problem, and one of my kids comes home and asks a question about, Dad, what is, sexuality or anything like that? Yeah, I'm gonna be having some questions for a teacher. And, I don't want to hear, I want to be able to come down and get some answers, immediately, and I don't care, if you're a board member or a teacher or whatever. I think it's our job, especially if I get on board, it would be my job to answer those, to be there to answer those questions for our parents. I believe everyone who works for the school district and in the school district, it is their job to serve those kids, for one, mainly the kids, but also the parents. And we need to reward them. We need to, we have, from what I've seen, like I said, my kids were here all last year in the school district. And, one of the reasons we came over here to go to Newcastle was for these schools and the school district. And I had nothing but great experiences with these teachers, and I guarantee you, I would say we need to make sure that we maintain a lot of these teachers. We also have to be diligent about, watching and hold them to account. And also, just to go in here, I think, a lot of people have been on board or have been on here for a long time. It would be a good time to get new blood in and stuff, because, we also, I'm just worried that, we're getting people to get comfortable with some things.
The question is, what role should parents have in the day-to-day operations of schools and classrooms?
I feel that parents should trust the teachers to do their job. I do feel that parents need to get more involved. I do know in the past that there have been parents or teachers reach out to parents that never show up. I think parents need to be involved with their kids in school. But another thing too is sometimes parents get overbearing, and then they want to try to overbear the teachers. And what they need to do is they need to realize that parents, we hired them to put them in a position to let them do their job. I do understand that that there's a lot of different politic ideas that run through school. I learned this a lot when my son went to Chagrin College. There is a lot of goofy ideas out there. If you're a Republican, if you're a Democrat, or not everybody's going to agree. But you definitely have to come together. And at the end of the day, come to a reason. But right now, nobody wants to reason. It seems like we're always fighting one way or another. So the role for parents to come to school, I think that's not what you're asking. I feel parents need to be more involved. I talked to some teachers that I got 5 kids, 2 are still in school. I had 3 graduate from Newcastle. My 3 older ones went to college. They did a very excellent job. Very proud with the accomplishments they did. But I was involved. When I got a phone call because my kid was bullying another kid. Some of you guys probably wouldn't like the way I handled it, but I did, brought him back. And Mr. Sample told me after 2 hours, he was an angel. So, anyway, I might take care of kids a little different than most parents, but my 3 older kids are very respectful. I think parents need to be more involved in everything.
I think the thing that works, and it's difficult to do sometimes as a parent, but the first line is to talk to the teacher and make sure that she or he understands what the using is the problem. Secondly is to talk to the principal of that building and let them know the review. Thirdly is to call the superintendent at the superintendent's office and talk to him. And if none of those changes the behavior and you're not satisfied, then you can ask for a meeting with the board, and you will get it. Board meets second and last Wednesdays of every month, except for 2 months, November and December. December and June, I'm sorry. But I think that's the way it works. I think you need to support your kids, but at the same time, I have to tell you that when I was a kid, I had a general decent record, but sometimes my view of what was said and what I did was not quite the same as the people around me. And so don't be amazed even. My parents at least were not amazed. But sometimes the teacher had a different view of what went on, and the principal then has to resolve that for me. And mostly they got that done. But I think it's very important that you be involved with your kids, you know what's happening with them, and that you're supportive of their efforts to learn. And I think that chain of command thing will work. It's not easy sometimes to go and do that as a parent. But I think that is the way that we get behavior, both from the student and the teacher and the principal and the superintendent correct. Thank you.
Parents' involvement with teachers, I think, should change over time. Honestly, as a kid, this is coming from an over-involved parent, but as a kid in elementary school, the teachers should be very involved. And I think as the kid grows, we should also be teaching our children conflict resolution. So if you get in middle school, yes, I agree, parents should be involved. And then once they're in high school, I mean, teach them to change, not just us, but to change. Teach our children, because that's what our goal is, to raise good adults. So I think that's really what we need to do, is have our kids, once they get into older ages, learn to do that themselves. I definitely agree with the chain of command, saying that is one big thing. And I would say to all parents, if you do have a problem, you're afraid of speaking, I know any of the school board members, I'm sure you can call them, and they'll help you out in any way they can. That's one thing I'd love to do, is have an open phone for anybody that I was elected. Thank you.
The thing that's most important, why we're here tonight, is that we vet the people that we elected to office. If you vote the person that you feel is most qualified for an office, they become a trusted friend. In the case of the school board, you elect the people you feel most qualified, most representative values in the educational goals and system that you want in place. And they monitor the daily running and operations of the school. I think the school, the parents, should take out every opportunity to meet with their teachers, to attend parental meetings, and to go to school board meetings. But one of their most important job is to provide a safe and clean environment at home for the children, to monitor what they're bringing home from school. Are they doing their homework? Are they falling behind? Find out their scores of their tests. What are they talking about? What are the words they're using? And foremost is our children are under attack on social media like you never understand. You need to monitor what's going on. You need to monitor what's going on in their computers. Because everybody, they're all walking around with this. Homework so they can prosper when they go to school, being rested, being fed, and being given the incentive to learn. And that's the biggest role. And if they feel that the child is failing in all those things, then yes, contact the teachers, contact the school board. I would talk to anybody who's an advocate for the students and parents. So, thank you.
This is Dr. Parents' roles within our day-to-day classroom settings is probably okay from time to time. I'm not saying that every parent needs to be there every waking second of every day. We put our trust within the school board to elect our school board to hire staff that we trust to teach our children what they need to be taught to make themselves successful in the real world. Our job as parents is to teach them the moral values to stay and live in a world that is changing within any aspect of life. I feel parents can be in the classroom not for an extended period of time. If they want to look in on a student and say, hey, this is what you're teaching my kid, fine. Leave it at that. But you need to follow a chain of command, as Tom and Joe also said. You have to talk to the teacher, find out when and if it's appropriate at that time. Because I don't want to walk in on state testing and be like, okay, I'm going to watch over your shoulder to make sure that you knew what the hell you were talking about. No, that is not my job as a parent. My job is to put trust in my educational staff to teach my children what they need to learn to pass that class.
Real quick, we just heard what every board member thinks their day-to-day job is as parents. I can tell you right now, when I visit the grade school, stay in your car, drop your kid off, pick him up at the end of the day. That's your only job.
So our next question. This was submitted by email, so this isn't for me. Do you believe parents have the right to direct their children's education and upbringing with full transparency while in charge of the school system? For example, recently in elementary school, my child received an eye exam. I was not informed of this exam nor asked for permission. What is the primary role of the teacher in the school system? And which roles have teachers in the school system been given that they should not have? Justin, would you like to start? Or Tyler, sorry, we'll start this one.
Sure.
Sorry.
Again, I feel that teachers should teach, parents should parent. That's the way it should be. Now, as far as this example of an eye exam given to them without parents' permission and stuff, there is no right-minded person in this room and or in the state of Wyoming that is going to allow the school without any kind of parental permission to give an eye exam to a student at school. They're going to contact the parent, they're going to get everything squared away, and the parent will take them to the eye doctor and have the exam. They might ask for the results afterwards,
But that is the relationship between a teacher and a parent. If the teacher feels, and I had this happen to me in fourth grade, I was struggling in Mrs. Tisdale's class reading the board. I had an eye problem. She let my parents know. My parents took me out after. I got glasses the very next day. That's the way it should be. It should be a parent-teacher relationship that needs to happen the right way and not just everyone, school, staff, taking it upon themselves to do these things for everybody else. Their intention might be good there, but it's the wrong way to go about it. Again, there is a chain of command, and it involves the teacher and the parent first and foremost.
No, I think the first half of the question we already kind of addressed. The first question. So I'll just say under parental rights, I don't believe any medical procedure should be conducted on a child or a student without prior permission from the parent. I also believe that parents, I don't want to repeat myself, whether, parents should be involved in their child monitoring what they bring home, how they act when they come home, what they're talking about, and take every opportunity if you feel there's a problem, contact the teacher or above to talk to them about it. So anything to do with medical procedures should be clearly prepared for. Thank you.
I'm sure we're all going to say the same thing. When it comes to health things, yes, teachers there to teach, we're still there to be the parents. But teachers will have to also understand, and I'm sure they already do, to follow a chain of command. When something happens like that, you bring it up to the parent and let the parent decide what is the right action for them. I do also believe when it comes to the teachers, they're the experts. I'm not a teacher, I'm an electrician. Let the teachers teach.
It's tough to have the one student said, so just pass and see if anybody else says.
So from what I understand, right, she received a knife down and the parent didn't know anything about it. So the question was, what is the primary role of the teacher in the school district? And which roles have teachers and the school district been given that they should not have?
Well, this is kind of goes with mom, the teacher put upon themselves to do knives and that signature. But like I said, you gotta have parents involved. Teachers, I know sometimes teachers, you guys are with the kids all the time, and they bond to you, like parents, I understand that, but you also too have to set your briefs from being a teacher. So, it just blows my mind that I know they get sent home and signed without a teacher doing that. So I just.
This kind of strike gets pretty close to home for me because my son and daughter literally just had this done. We just took them over and had their eyes checked on Monday because we got, eye exams in school. But we did sign off on that it was okay for them to get those exams. So it was something that we didn't know about. So it wasn't a surprise. Well, it was a surprise to me. I didn't know about it, but my wife did, so, it was, so a little bit surprised. So I would say that communication could definitely be better, which is one of the things that I think is our biggest issue here is communication between the school and the parents. one of the things that I'm running for would be that we seem to have these great tools like Classroom Dojo and all this stuff for our parents, or for our teachers to communicate to the parents. But I have not heard one thing from the school. As a parent, I have not heard one direct thing from the school board. I've gotten little alerts from the school saying, hey, whenever you close down, I've got those kind of things and stuff like that. But I haven't, this coming Wednesday, stuff like that. And I think those would be valuable. I think that kind of communication would help people feel more connected. And I think that's the main problem here is she obviously doesn't feel like she was.
I feel like I'm gonna repeat myself, but communication, transparency, too simple. Maybe a little bit of common sense thrown in there for good measure. I can't believe a teacher would give an exam without parental consent. There's got to be more to the story. But communication, transparency, common sense can fix all of this issues, period.
Just wanted to touch on something that I think is very important. It's a medical issue going on in the school. Psychotropic drugs. Okay, we're notifying our youth with psychotropic drugs, and instead of allowing youth to express themselves, if there's a problem child, then they must be sedated, they must be medicated. Any the profile of any school shooter or most school shooters in this country over the last few years has been a young man isolated from his father, isolated from his surroundings, isolated from his environment, and given psychotropic drugs. And all of them became suicidal tendencies, suicidal thoughts, irritability, all kinds of side effects that our child is trying to deal with when they go to school. And they're sweating, and they're shaking, and they're rocking because their heads can't think, because they're overprocessed, which is being sold on the street for a drug for people or for adults, because they can get off on it because it's like speed. I'm just saying, I can get into a lot more. But this is a systemic problem within our youth and our school system now. We're treating our kids with medications instead of dealing with them with psychotherapy spots. Thank you.
Do we have any questions from the audience? Yes, sir. Would you come up? If you want to state your name and where you live, and speak at the podium, because this is our
My name is Justin Fullback. I just have a couple of questions. I'm going to try to word them in such a way that's not going to elicit a long-winded response from every candidate. I guess one of my questions is a personal experience I had with one of the teachers from this school district was political influence of varsity, one of my children. And it kind of upset me. I felt like politics should be left out of the classroom, and whether anyone's beliefs, left, right, it doesn't matter. I feel like it's not the place in the classroom. So, and maybe I'm wrong, is the school board in charge of rendering consequence for teachers? Is that right? Can anyone answer that? Yes.
maybe Mr. Rankin?
I'm sorry, I didn't hear the whole question.
Is the school board responsible for rendering consequences for our teachers for maybe questionable acts of misconduct? Or is that up to the superintendent?
Now, when you say are they responsible, do you mean are they legally responsible or are they, should they be responsible? They're concerned about it.
Well,
They're responsible.
can you fire a teacher, or can you render like a written, like a
Reprimand.
recommend, a letter of reprimand for the teacher, or can you terminate employment? Does that go through the school board, or does that go through some other avenue?
Those things will all go through the school board.
Okay,
And there are some specific state laws about what are grounds for termination. And it depends some if you're a first 3-year teacher, in the beginning 2 years, or if you're a continuing contract teacher. And generally, there are 8 reasons for teacher termination. Immorality, endangering life of people around you. I should go over before I go, I should go over to that section. Book that to you. Because there are those reasons, but they have to be documented, and they're subject to hearing, and in many cases, the board will get a recommendation from the superintendent. They don't have to follow that. But then they will sit as a board, but the state has a set of hearing examiners that will come and hear the case. And then the hearing examiner will make a recommendation to the board. Now, if the board does not accept the hearing examiner's recommendation, then it goes to the district court. And that goes through court procedure.
okay. So I guess just by raising hands from the candidates here, now, politics is kind of a tricky issue for our school and our teachers. I understand that, because it's hard to, especially in this day and age, distinguish, what's actually truth, what's current, it's hard to distinguish just between current events and then facilitate a conversation where it's not left or right. But if someone was to say, for example, that our president is doing the wrong thing and is a corrupt individual, and for an example, and make my kid believe that what he is doing is wrong, would that be an example of something that maybe should be addressed? Raise the hands. Okay. That's all I want to know. And then the second part of the question, or the second question that I had was, so politics is kind of a tricky issue, and I'm really glad to hear that most all the candidates here are against the furry, whatever the hell they are sexually frustrated. It's just crazy. But now I kind of lost my train of thought. 1 second. It was the political agenda, and then I guess it was reprimand teacher. And I was kind of wondering what the steps would look like when we would go to that. Yeah, I can't remember. All right, I guess that's all I got. If I think of it, I'll just come back up.
We can answer next week or this week, and give me an email, or call the superintendent's office, and we can get some kind of an answer for what our vision for what the law is.
I just want to touch on one thing, politics, another elections, who's running for office, this, that, definitely not. The way governments work and run, in civics class, definitely. As far as reporting and this and that, I'll give you an example that most of you are probably aware of. Recently, it was made known that a teacher asked, gave students a paper asking what their preferred pronouns are.
That was my question.
So when the parents came to the school board and expressed their concern about this and saying that something should be done, I believe the school board just basically turned it back onto the parent and said, well, you should contact the teacher, let them know what you feel. Personally, I think in that situation, in a lot of situations, that the school board should write a generic letter for the whole school, saying things like, we don't agree with pronouns, you're not allowed to teach gender ideologies or sexual ideologies to the students. It should be a general letter, it should be presented to the whole school, so that every teacher knows what is acceptable, and if they don't follow those rules, then they can be held accountable. And make it clear.
Did anyone else have anything to say on it?
Yeah, I do. No way, shape, or form should politics or a teacher's general idea should come into school. Absolutely not. I mean, with math, it's a lot easier. It's black and white. It's on the books, what you learn. I did learn something at the last school board meeting. There's a curriculum director, and all of us have influence on it. All of us are allowed to vote on that when it goes to the state and they take those. And everybody should look them up and look into it. I mean, that's our big influence into this. If you're not on the school board, that's how you get what you want into the school. I think that's what everybody should do. Like Sean's been saying, as a parent, you should be more involved. There's our involvement right there. Thank you.
Yeah, that is, this pronoun thing is something I heard about too, and it's one of the other things you hide in that little box, so over in Sundance, which, sounds entertaining and, and that, but it's truthfully scary. I've had many, when I told people that I was gonna run for school board, and I told people, I was like, I want to make sure that, my daughter is, is safe going to the bathroom in the school, and that, and I had a bunch of people tell me, you don't have to worry about that here, I actually do, I'm sorry, it's when you pretend like it's not gonna happen here, or it's like, oh, well, we're a tiny little town in Wyoming. Yeah, it happens here too. And stuff. So we have to be diligent, we have to stay on top of these things. And, no, we should not allow any of this into our schools. I would also, when Tom was talking about the process of, firing a teacher, I have to admit, that actually blew me away a little bit. I'm like, why? Why do we have to go through, that big of a process to fire a teacher that we do not believe is doing a good job? I understand there is due diligence and stuff, but it's, this sounds almost like we're battling politics, and I don't think that you have to be that complicated. If you're not doing your job, you should be terminated. And it shouldn't take an act of Congress to do it.
Beyond this, and I understand what you're saying, I've heard this too. One thing that I've always wished teachers would do is separate themselves from politics. Don't teach their ideas to the kids. Go to the book, history, teach it, don't push their agenda. I'm going to tell you guys again, I've seen it 100 times. I've heard it, I've seen it, I've heard it. In big colleges, okay? Professors, and now we're starting to see it in our schools. Professors are trying to teach our kids some of the goofiest ideas I've ever heard in my life. So one thing about teachers, you need to separate yourself from politics. Teach the kids. You're there for the kids. You're not there for Obama. You're not there for President Trump. You're not there for anyone got in there. But anyway. So that's one thing, and me and my wife have sat down and talked about this a few times, because the boys said some stuff to us, and I really, I understand your feeling, your frustration, I really do, because I've been there myself, is teachers need to separate themselves from politics. And bottom line, teach your kids. Don't sit there and push them, you need to be a Democrat, this Democrat's better, this Republican's better. No, teach the kids and move on. They'll decide when they get older, when they get ready to vote. So,
One of the things I've always asked parents, one of the things I've always asked of, whenever I talk to my, teachers, and I went to UW to become a teacher. I got sidetracked and drawn into the oil field for 20 years. So they pulled me away from it, so I never finished my degree to become a teacher. But I have a lot of friends that are teachers, and one of the things I always tell them is teach the kids how to think, not what to think. And, because it's indoctrination, and we don't need to be indoctrinating these kids. We need to be teaching them how to think. That's
So when it comes to the gender ideology stuff, anybody that listened to me talk to the school board last time was talking about that stuff, I don't think it's appropriate. If we want to talk about politics, one of the best teachers I ever had in high school was Mr. Rich Thomas, and he was a Democrat. He was an honest Democrat. He would say, I'm a Democrat, here's what I think. We could have an honest discussion, and not once did he ever hold a difference of opinion against us as his students, because it was open and transparent, and at the end of the day, I respected him because he was honest. That's all we need to have from our teachers. If they're gonna be honest about their politics, I can respect that. Just don't push it on my child. If we want to have a civics class, they're gonna have to talk about politics. That's what it's there for. Leave the parenting with parents. Leave our kids to be kids. But at the end of the day, politics is in everything we do. As long as we're honest about it, that's all we can do. I feel one way, you may feel another. Tell me what you think. We can either agree or disagree. Does that make sense? If it's appropriate, I don't have a problem.
Sorry,
You keep going.
over again over here, but the last that your question or that statement you made about the gender, with the teacher's family asking the gender, that was one of the examples I was going to get to, was how do you recommend a teacher in a situation like that? Because I feel like that was a perfect example of why, I don't know if I would say ending a teacher's career over it, but absolutely, addressing that issue, and hopefully moving forward that behavior changes from the teacher. And if it doesn't, then maybe terminate. I didn't know what it really looked like, but I wanted to make sure that, the people that I would want to elect would be on the side of, well, let's get rid of this teacher if they have a history of bringing up these controversial issues. Now, the second question I had was, and Stanley brought it up in your speech too, was, there's strings of federal money. And it kind of goes with everything. There's certain things that tie our school districts to federal money and grants. And some of those things there, I agree that there are CRT, there's kind of agendas that are tied to that money that we would willingly take on. Now, I guess, and I don't agree with CRT or any of that, and I know some of you don't either, and if elected, how would you circumvent that situation where if we're gonna actually decline a grant, what's the other options? What are we looking at for, as like an alternative to the grants?
So, I'm gonna give you an example. But first, like I said, if you're taking millions of dollars in grants from all different associations, government agencies, then we are no longer running our school here in Weston County. All these people supplying these grants are, because they do come in handy. An example of what we could do is called the 1776 curriculum. It's from Hillsdale College. It's for civics and history, and it's absolutely free. Get it? You don't have to pay for it. It's given to you. And what it entails as far as civics and history is American history lessons from pre-European exploration through Reconstruction of K through 12. American history lessons from the Gilded Age to present day from middle and high school. Complete civics and government courses for middle and high school teachers. Hillsdale College vetted book on online courses and resources. Student-ready primary resources. Sample assignments, activities, and assessments, and an introduction that includes the principles of the curriculum, prodigy, good guidance, and advance. Again, this doesn't have any hooks in it because you don't have to pay. You're not obligated, but it's free. And this is something that President Trump had started to institute before he was no longer president. And he actually appointed a 1776 curriculum czar. Okay, so this is an example of what we can do. It has no strings. You don't have to pay for it. And you can cut the budget of the school down. Thank you.
One more thing, we talked about the chain of command on firing teachers. I understand that. I would have to say, we just can't take firing teachers. We just can't do that. We all have to come to an agreement at the end of the day. Everybody has to get together, the parent, teacher, the board, superintendent, the principal, and everybody, and get the issue figured out. So I can tell you guys right now, owning businesses in town, it's really hard to find hired help. And from what I understand, finding teachers are really hard too. Sounds like bus drivers are even worse. So you just can't think of just firing a teacher. Everybody's going to be different. They're going to have different ideas. I deal with it every day. Somebody tips over your dump truck, you can't go up there and fire them. I mean, and you need them to drive another truck the next day. So, I mean, everybody has to come together, and hopefully the teacher realizes what they're doing, and hopefully the parent realizes, and hopefully the changes come later. So, I just wanted to bring that up.
Well, on the federal money and stuff, grants and stuff, I know there are hundreds, if not thousands, available. You turned it off. Shut it off. Okay, so as far as what you were talking about with federal monies and grant money that the school does receive and stuff, there are some mandates that do come with that, and I feel, as I gave in my first speech, that we as a school board have the opportunity to read all of those mandates, grants, and that comes in. We should be able to realize, or not realize, that's not the right word, find all the little things that all of us as parents, as teachers, CRT, and all of those types of things, gender identity that might happen to come with these mandates, push that grant aside. There are many more out there that we can go through that serves what we as parents, we as staff, we as school board members
that will help our students for the better. Thank you.
Any questions from the audience? Alright, since we started talking money, this one is multifaceted. Pay attention. If required to meet cuts in spending, which aspects of the district budget should be visited first, and which ones should not be considered? And how would the board hold staff accountable? And how would the people hold the board accountable?
Wow.
A big circle of accountability. Joey, let's take it.
I am. Yeah, you know, even with the grants, that stuff's real complex, and everything's got to be looked on a per basis, right? I mean, you make a decision right here and say what I'm for and what I'm not. I mean, yes, if we're taking a grant that makes us have to put in a gender neutral bathroom, no, we shouldn't be taking something. I think the whole country really didn't want to get on a big scale political thing here, but we're in a big economic crisis. If we don't have to have the money, why take the money?
Okay, let me take those one by one. What was the first one?
So we're talking about the circle of accountability. So if you're required to make cuts in spending, which aspects of the district budget would you not touch? Which ones would you touch? How would you hold staff accountable? And how should the people hold the board accountable?
Okay, the last one is easy. This election holds the board accountable. That's what elections are for. If you are really unhappy and people are promising to do it better or different, then that's your choice. If you think we're doing pretty well, there's another group of people running that think we're on a fairly decent track. And that's board accountability. Teacher accountability is by selection of the curriculum and by supervision of the principal. Their person that gives them their evaluation each year. Everyone who works for the school district, 190 of them, get at least one personnel evaluation a year. I'm sure that some evaluations are more involved than others. Some administrators are more adept or more trained or more experienced at giving them others. But we really have a policy that says everyone that works for the school gets at least one evaluation a year. Those evaluations then build, and they kind of become part of the principal's recommendation to the superintendent, the superintendent's recommendation to the board as to who will be hired and rehired and who will not. Now, it comes to the harder question about budgets. And partly it depends how much money we're talking. Because we have budgeted over the last 25 years or 30 years, even before I was elected, believe it or not, the board kept a little surplus of money, and as inflation has come along, that surplus has grown to handle unexpected things. We have never spent all the money that we had. Okay, so if you're talking $50,000, we can absorb that one time on the carrier. If you're talking $2.5 million, some of you were part of the process when we felt 2 years ago we were going to have to do that. We took parent input, we took staff input, administrative input, board input, and tried to do what we had to do at that time. We were very fortunate because it turned out that we did not have to do that. It's a very grueling process. But basically in the spring, as early as March, the business manager starts talking to teachers, administrators, principals, drug department heads. What does your budget look like? Here's what you've spent so far. If it looks like it's going to be tough next year, several times we have just said, no, you can't spend any more money on anything that we're not contracted for until July. We've done that a time or two. Sometimes, if it's more than that, then she puts the business manager, doesn't have to be a she, but it's been for 20 years. So, Deb is retired now, and we have hired a new person to do that. But we have then looked at and put together a preliminary budget. And this has always come through the legislature, because the legislature is the control of the money for schools in Wyoming. It used to be true. It used to be there were some local board options. That's not true anymore. So you figure out, you try to get a handle on the changes to the way they allocate money, which usually doesn't happen until about April, maybe after the legislature's over, and the Legislative Service Office has had a chance to redo the formula. Business managers get the formula and run it through, and you're basically, the main source of money for the state money is the number of students you have. So it's your average daily attendance. So then, sometime in April, first part of May, this budget might look like. And teachers send in the budget request to the principal, to the department head, comes up through, and ultimately the administrative team, the principals, department heads, and the superintendent have to put together a recommendation to the board. And then we have a preliminary budget hearing in May. It's a public meeting, we take public comment. I have to tell you, in all honesty, it's been maybe 15 years since we had any public comment at that meeting, because it's kind of difficult to come in if you haven't been part of this whole process. But if you do come in, we'll be happy to try to explain it to you. Then finally, in June, there's another meeting, and we adopt the budget. And then that actually comes in July. And at that meeting, the third Wednesday by statute, third Wednesday for the week of the third Wednesday in July now, school boards will have a meeting, and they will set the budget for the next year. And that's how the process works. Now, in Wyoming, you can't deficit spend. So the very worst thing that we can do, money-wise, is to spend all of the money we think we're going to get. Our history as a board has been that doesn't happen. We save back some money so that for unexplained, unusual things that happen. We get a bad windstorm, blows off a building. We get 3 special ed people that go to individual things, individual work for $250,000 a piece, those kinds of things. But that's the budget process. Every 80% of the budget is people and benefits. So, you can talk about not paying the power, or you maybe don't want to pay the city for the water for the swimming pool. But that doesn't save an awful lot of money. We can talk about stopping activities. It's about 3% saving, between 3 and 4% saving. If we close the door at 4 o'clock and didn't open until 8 o'clock, you get about a 4% saving. That's no football teams, no basketball teams, no teams, school closures. So that's not very realistic either. That's also one of the most important things we do. So the end result is, we hope we've lobbied the legislature, and we hope that you, as citizens, have lobbied your legislators who are up for election now, the 8th of November. and tell them how important schools are to you, because they do listen to that. But that money is set, and that's a general, and I'm sorry, I'm going on, and I'm doing this because of the board treasurer, okay? But I'm going on at some length, but I'm trying to condense it down so you have a view of what actually happens when we have to come. Are there questions? Is that more than you wanted to know about budgets?
That was great.
Here's the deal. In 2014, actually, the Weston County operating budget was $11,747. The annual budget at that time was $45 million, $575,418. This current year, the proposed budget is $56,291. Repeat that. $56,391,182. You take the salaries, the benefits, the property services, road and maintenance, dues and fees, professional services from that, you're left with $8,317,811 to give to the students. And there's even some deductions from that, such as other purchase services. I don't know what it is, that's $6 million. Almost $6 million. The two most important parts of the educational system are the teachers and the students. All the things I just read out to you is the bureaucracy. I'm not for firing people or laying people off. I think if there's an over excess above the teacher and student level, it can be done through attrition. If there's a blow, somebody retires, somebody quits, somebody moves, we don't replace them. That way, nobody's serving feelings. I think there's a lot that can be cut from these budgets. I compared another school system that had, and by the way, we have 777 students. I compared it to another school system with a population of over 30,000 people with a student body of 2,600 plus students that's operating almost on a $500,000 budget. This is bureaucracy. This is what comes from all these grants, because with all these grants, you got to remember, these associations, these government agencies are like carpetbaggers. They come to the schools and sell you, look, we got this money. All you got to do is do this. All you got to do is implement this social program, put a psychologist here, and an NPO here, an NGO here. That's where the blow comes from. Okay. So again, the teachers and the students are the most important part of the school and the educational, and that's where the major part of the money should be, not the latter part. Thank you.
Is that working? I have to comment because the budget that we published, that we agreed to, is $15,719,349.93. I don't know where you got your numbers, but they don't drive with what we have here. Okay. I'm sorry, that's the only requested. Who made these up? Who made these?
I got it off the Weston County School website. It says requested budget 2022-2023. The total budget $56,391,182.
I'll have to look at that.
That's what? That's what you do. Okay. So you cut that in half, it's still at about $30 million. I stand corrected. Thank you.
Well, I disagree about the number. We have to get together and work on that.
So the I think the meat of the question was, is there any line item that you would absolutely not cut, and any line item that you would consider cutting first?
Well, first off, I would not cut teacher salaries. Because from every teacher I've ever known, and like I said, I was in education in college, and a lot of my friends have been, that I went to school with, have been teaching for 20 years now or better. And they literally put a lot of their money that they made back into the class. So I am definitely one for not cutting teacher budgets or cutting their benefits, because, I do believe they do a very hard job. And, they deserve all the respect, that we can give them. And unfortunately, in this day and age, I think that's one thing that you don't get a lot of is respect. So, yeah, that is one thing I would not touch. As for where to look for cuts, yeah, like I said, I would, if I was on board, then that would be the thing I would look into. I don't believe in trying to cut, like your social programs and like art and football and those kind of programs and stuff either. But I do believe that we can reach out to the community and say, hey, we need help. Our budget for whatever reason is this, and if we want to have football, hey, someone, donate new jerseys, and would they help these kind of things? So I think it's again, it comes down to communication between the school district and the school board and the community, and saying, hey, we might need some help.
Real quick, the one thing I wouldn't touch is teacher salary. Our good teachers, they don't make enough wages. And it's kind of a slap in the face when they get a hidden sub raise and the administrators get a huge raise. So I would not touch the wage period. I did find out, I'm taking this second hand, that we are number one in the state of Wyoming. It's in professional development spending to the tune of $260,000 a year. I don't know what all that entails, but I think I would rather pay my teachers a little more, maybe cut that number a little bit, give them a little more money than have them professionally developed. I would gladly give up that number one spot in the state to pay our teachers more. The rest of it, we would just have to take it case by case. But our teachers are not appreciated enough. The good ones do the job because they love it, not for the paycheck. Every little bit helps. This community has never let anyone down when it comes to giving. This community gives till it hurts every single time. We just had a discussion with the volleyball kids, and they asked for bus drivers, which is another thing. If you're hemorrhaging employees in a certain department, wouldn't it behoove you to look at that department to try to figure out why we're hemorrhaging employees from certain departments? But we were told if we don't have bus drivers, they're not going. I said, the hell we're not. We will load them up in our excursion, Suburbans, cars. I don't care. We'll put the gas bill and get them where they're going. And the next thing was, well, we don't know if that's legal. Well, I'll get a permission slip from every parent. We will make it happen because we make things happen here. That's what we do. So, thank you, teachers. I know a lot of you here. I've known you for years. If we don't hear it enough, we really appreciate the job that you do because you are the difference.
I just wanted to say, I learned a while back that men should be paid rapidly and quickly. I was looking at my paperwork, and it's for Weston County, or Weston, Connecticut. Tom is absolutely proud and correct. So forgive me, Tom, and forgive me. But like I said, I can always admit when I'm wrong. I used to be like, thank you. I'm really relieved too that it's not.
I've been to Weston. I can't stand for that.
The $242,000 is the line item for all curriculum, not just professional development. That's how it's coded, how the Department of Ed wants it coded for this, the State Department of Education. So, expenditures for curriculum are on a 7-year cycle. 7 years, that has to be addressed. That curriculum is all done locally. I've heard rumors that that is not the case, but it's true. And the year that it was 242,000 included math and some of the language arts that we had to get some curriculum for. So that's what that is. It's a lot more than just professional development in that category.
But we're still number one.
That was the plan to be.
I'm sorry.
Any questions from the audience? Yes, sir. It's easier for Walter, even if it's all. By the way, Walter is videoing this. It's on Facebook Live and will be posted on the Weston County Republican Party page tomorrow. So you can get it really up there.
Good evening, Doug Stricker, I'm the Assistant Principal. And I do have maybe a more pointed question about your priorities. That might be a little bit clarity to everybody. Currently, the state establishes a model that the districts are suggested to follow in how many teachers they should have in a year. Right now, the state recommends that the district are segments. They fund half of a year technical education teacher. So I think one of those teachers and Christian science. But the district, so even though the state suggests, well, the state only funds half of a teacher, we have continued to fund 4 teachers, 4 full-time teachers at high school level, including 2 teachers at middle school. No, 1 at elementary school, 1 at middle school. Would this continue to be a priority, or if the state put pressure on the district that we needed to roll it all along, would you deprioritize those areas?
Well, it's a good point that you brought up there. I'm assuming that most of my colleagues here are in agreement that cutting teachers' salaries and stuff within our budget is not one of our goals ever. If anything, like all teachers are the backbone of our students, and they need to be treated as such. They make probably just about as much as I do, if not less, which is that's one of the things that our nation currently is facing, period, in all aspects as teachers and salaries. However, I know which programs you're talking about, home ec, ag, all of those programs. That is not one I would prioritize as being cut. We do need those after education learning experiences that we get taught at the schools as far as well-being. And we live in a rural community, and we have to know as such that our ranchers and our outside community members, whether they be on a ranch, that is what they do. And not all students, and I'm not saying this to be mean, but not all students are going to college. Some of them are going to go into military service, some of them are going to go in straight into the workforce. And in our community, we've got coal mine, refinery, oil field, and ranching. And those are things that we need to have be taught in school as an elective. And so that is not something that I would prioritize in making a cut. I would actually prefer that we keep it going and make it stronger as a community.
I just wanted to agree with him on tech schools and things like that. Most of our students, that's what they're going to be going for. So I would say no. I hope everybody up there would probably agree with that. That we try to keep that kind of curriculum.
I know, so most of you, Matt, you know, before. The question I have for everybody up here is, do you believe in absolute truth? And if you do, what is the basis for that absolute truth? And then the third part of it is, if you don't believe in absolute truth, how do you determine what is truth?
Wow, what a softball question.
Hey, Gary, that makes sense.
Is it? Oh, sorry.
Been overlooked before. That's a good question. I spent a lifetime trying to figure it out. One, I learned that I'm not the same. Two, I learned that I strive for progress, not perfection. Three, I now turn for guidance to create guidance. And in a given situation like coming here tonight, I pray for understanding my higher powers and the ability to carry that out. And as I wrote my statement, I did the same. Before I wrote it, I said, make me humble, keep me honest, guide me. It's what is your will, not mine. And then I wrote it, and you heard what came out. That statement I read here today was guided by Creator, which is what my life is. There was a time in my life that I did not believe. It was self-will or mine. And as a result, my life was a shambles. So now I turn to Creator in all affairs that are most important in my life. One of my mantras is your will, not mine, be done. And when things turn out the way they did, and I can feel it in my heart when I have spoken the truth, when I'm telling the truth. That's a lesson that taken me 60, almost 68 years to understand. So thank you.
Okay, that is a very good question. You said it kind of the nail on the head a lot. Yes, I believe it is, very important to be, what is absolute truth? We try to be as truthful as we can always. I believe, I don't believe in lying to my kids. I don't believe in lying, in general. I believe it just makes life easier and, if we just can be honest. So, and why do I believe these things? For me, it is, a lot to do with, how your personal faith, do you believe in a creator, and that, and I do, I do because, I have actually heard, the Lord speak. I tell a story to people that, what led me back to God, and stuff, when I was about 10 years ago. Before that, I was, I believed, but wasn't active, an active believer. But 10 years ago, I used to be 609 pounds. I was a very, very large man and stuff. And I had been big since I was a kid. And finally, when I found out that I was 609 pounds, I, literally hit my knees and, asked the Lord for help. And he answered and actually told me, "You've been trying to do this by yourself. You can't." And that changed my life. That's been 10 years ago, and, it completely changed my life, and, it led me to a whole other, path. I can't remember the other parts to that question, but, so, what was it?
Basically, I think you kind of answered it. If you don't believe in absolute truth, how do you determine what is true?
Okay, well, I mean, truth is, of course, it's kind of like, reality, everybody is, has their own version of reality and stuff, truth is going to be different to each person, like I said, you have, it's like that old saying that, truth is a triple-edged sword, you have your version, their version, and then what actually happened, so, yeah, I mean, all we can do is strive to be as truthful as we can, and that's what I try to hold myself to, is to, if you ask me something, I'm going to tell you what I believe. And there you go.
Once upon a time, as a young teacher, I was struggling with a problem. And my principal pulled me aside and he just smiled and said, "Remember one thing, perception is reality." Well, that summed it up. I know how I see myself. I know how a few others see myself, and trust me, they're totally different. So I know what I think the truth is. My truth is based on my perception of reality. Somebody else's might be different. The truth is between you and God. And that's the final judgment.
Truth is, when I was a little kid and you lied, I got real things for lying. So, so you pretty much tell the truth from the heart. So you got to pick out who's lying, who's telling the truth. We're talking about God. We'll get a little bit deeper into that. Jesus Christ, your Savior. We can get into that real deep. But you really know the truth. Like in politics nowadays, it's a little bit different because you don't never know what the TV's telling you. There's a lot of lies out there. You absolutely have to know in your heart and what you believe is the truth. So it's, I mean, up here, we can't tell you guys what to believe, but as board members, in our heart, we have to know the truth and what's the best for teachers and for the kids. The kids are the main thing. So if somebody presents something that ain't the truth, then, we have to call them out on it. That's what you do.
I have to say that as a board member, the schools should not be preaching my view of the absolute truth, nor your view, sir. The school should have me teaching people to think on the basis of what history has been, so people can understand what other people have thought and acted, and what the consequences of those are. The idea of what you see as the absolute truth of what I do is properly for our family, our kids, our church, but it's not a function to me of the school in any way. And I think we've heard that this morning or this afternoon, this evening. As people said, we didn't want politics intruding. We don't want religion intruding in our school. These are public schools, and they're to teach people to think and to give them a basis in history for the kind of government we have and appreciation for how it got there. And then some reality that they may go forth as adults and find what the truth is. And it may be the same as mine, it may be the same as my neighbors. It may not be. And one of us could be wrong, and maybe both of us are right. Maybe there are 2 or 3 gates to heaven. I don't know that yet, and I'm not ready to go this evening and look. In all fairness. But that's my view of it as far as it goes to schools. Thank you.
I do believe in absolute truth. I believe there is one absolute truth, and for the rest of us, the truth is work. To sit here and say I've never lied, I've never done anything wrong, would be a lie. So I'm not going to sit here and say that. And every day, I think everybody needs to work on that. So that's my absolute truth and what I'm trying to do. Always become better and not lie about stuff. There is an absolute truth in it. There was only one here so far. So that's my answer.
I was always taught God, country, family. My absolute truth comes between me and God. No one else can change that. I agree with Tom. My absolute truth could be different from yours. And I know this from personal experience because I remember in high school that the Pledge of Allegiance came under scrutiny about having God in the pledge when I was going to school. It is something that our school district decided to keep, and I'm glad that they did. However, yes, religion does not belong in a school function. However, when you go to every activity, whether it be football, basketball, volleyball, there's the national anthem, and there's the or the Pledge of Allegiance. And everybody that I know here says under God. The other absolute truth that I have is between me and the Lord above. Thank you.
Do you have any questions from the audience? Yes, ma'am.
My name is Parental, and I have 4 kids in our district. I wonder what you guys think about our proficiency levels. Our math level currently is at 34%. How do you think we can change that, fix that, and improve that? Because as a parent, that's quite alarming to see.
Well, Misty, I do agree with you that 34% is quite actually atrocious in my point of view. And if you remember when I was first introducing myself, I did talk about how when COVID happened, that Common Core basically left our school system and we went back to simple math. And that, I think, actually raised our proficiency from what it was. I do believe it was about 28% right there. But I find it that, especially in the area of mathematics, that it's hard anymore. Everything is done on a calculator. No one is taught to think for themselves. They're taught, grab your calculator. If you don't understand it, do it on your calculator. And that's not the way it needs to be. There are people who are my age that can't even count change back. And that, by right, is alarming. I was taught cents, nickels, dimes, quarters, and you count your change back to whoever you are, and if you're handling money. And yes, math, writing is another example. I believe that, and I did learn from one of our students that actually our English in the high school is still written for the most part. But I do believe handwriting is another subject area that we need to look at along with mathematics and get our proficiency level. Because I think when we were in school, it was right around 62%, I want to say. And 34%, 35% is quite atrocious from where it used to be. And we need to go back to the basics.
So, I already, in my statement, I mentioned proficiency ratings and levels. I'm going to be perfectly honest, the educational system in this country is a joke. Right? We are not leading the world in education, folks. We're at the bottom of the room. Okay? I don't know the dynamics of how we can improve this. That's why I became a school board member. That's why I said, as a school board member and as a retired person, I will go to those schools. I will find out how we can improve these ratings, and I will report it back to you. Sorry. It's a complex issue, and I hate to keep going back to all these grants and everything, but they're systemic. These grants come with things that you must teach with them, and it has nothing to do with reading, writing, and arithmetic. That's why I'm proficient in all this stuff. And I don't know the other dynamics, because I said in my statement, we have good teachers here. We have students willing to learn. Somewhere there's a disconnect, and that's the school board that I'll find. Thank you.
I agree. I think we need to get with the teachers and see what they're struggling with and what they need to help improve on. I also don't think that tests show it. At one of the school board meetings, Mr. Roy said, students take tests at different times and they may not always be perfect. I think a lot of the kids, I was one of those kids that was not good at taking tests, and I feel somewhat successful in my life, maybe not the best as everybody else, but I think that we need to look at it on a student per student basis, and we can't always base a student off of the test.
I'd have to say that you've pinpointed one of the things that the current board has worked on for a couple of years. I'll give you an idea. We've had 14 math teachers in 11 years in the high school. And that's not satisfactory. And there's a whole series of reasons why, and a whole series of reasons how it worked out that way. But currently, we had our teacher resign, and currently, we've made a big search in the area with everybody that our administrative staff knows. And there are not math teachers available and willing to come here at this time. There's not very many math teachers available per year because they're contracted. We have a plan for between now and Christmas with a long-term substitute who's excited about mathematics. And we're going to do some work with the computer for part of that, so that there will be this person in the classroom, and there will be a person that is a certified math teacher on the computer for each student each day. Do we know that's going to work? No. But it looks like the thing we can do right now, until semester comes at least, And we have an opportunity to try to recruit a full-time, highly qualified math teacher. Do I feel good telling you that? No. Okay? It's been a problem. It's a problem the board is trying to deal with, has been trying to deal with. The administration has been trying to deal with. We're not happy with 34%. But I do think that it demonstrates to me the importance of a quality teacher over a period of time to make a difference and make an improvement. We're trying to get there. We're not there today. We have a plan that will be better than no teacher at all. But that's the current situation. Am I elated about it? No. Is it a board failure? Well, yeah, I guess it is. We're the one that hires the math teachers. And we didn't do that right over the last 14 years, or the last 11 years. But that's the status where we are today as best as I can describe it to you.
You just gotta stay the board or is it the teacher? I was probably the guy that the kid was in 67%, but I'll be honest with you, I did not do real well in school. When we graduated, I was at the very bottom of it. I didn't, mathematics was one of my strong points. I had some real good teachers, Mrs. Rose, Mrs. DeVigi, bless their hearts. Went to Osage, had some real good teachers there. Went to high school, math teachers. I would say they spent time with me. Okay, there's a lot of kids in this school that need the time of a teacher. What I'm saying there is, if it wasn't for Mrs. Rose, if it wasn't for Mrs. Tabici, giving me the extra time, I probably wouldn't learn that. I wouldn't have learned a lot. There's a lot of teachers that took their time and extra time with me to get where I was. Now, was I high on the GPA list? Never. No. Was I on honor roll? Never. But they took time to spend with me to the basics. And one thing I see these kids come home now, I am totally lost in some of this math things. I know it changes a lot. I can't help. Even when Merritt was secondary, it changed so much. I mean, the mathematics have changed so much. Is it the board? Well, I don't think so. Is it the teacher? I don't think so. I think the board and the teacher need to come together. I mean, that seems like a pretty high rate to me. We went through that many math teachers. We need to probably pull together and see what the problem is. I can see a lot of troubled kids, and you're going to see a lot more troubled kids. And the reason why is because I'm going to blame it on some parents. Because the parents don't put the time into their kids. They expect the teachers fully to do it. And it's not the teacher's fully job to do it. I'm very blessed to have the teachers I did. So when we say the board, when we say the teachers, I say the teachers need to take some time, and I do know a lot of teachers that do take a lot of time for troubled kids. And I take my hat off to you because it does take some extra time, especially out of trouble. I mean, I wasn't so troubled, but I just didn't want to pay attention. I just didn't want to be in school. So, but I know what you guys are dealing with as teachers, because I've seen the troubled kids that come through Newcastle, and I really think that you guys don't get a lot of credit for it. There's a lot of teachers, and there's some teachers that I won't give credit for, I'll be honest with you, that need to step up and be a better teacher. The board, you you guys do your job, but I think the board needs to pull the teachers in and ask, why are we failing so bad? I mean, that's communication. So that's kind of where I'm reaching out.
Yeah. Excellent question. And as a parent, it's one that does concern me as well. Like I said, me and my wife both spend a lot of time supplementing our own kids' educations at home because, we do see some of the issues in that. But again, I won't say it's a teacher issue or anything like that because I believe that we have some amazing teachers here. Every teacher that I've actually had contact with so far in this school district has been very, very, very positive and very, very good. So I know I'm sure we probably do have some teachers that, people will take issue with. I haven't met them yet, but of course I'm just dealing with a lot of the elementary stuff right now. So, but yeah, I would say we have to, this high school, the 11 teachers in over the last few years, that's scary. And again, that's another reason why I don't think we should ever touch a teacher's salary. And we need to be, and especially in a community like ours where we don't have a huge population and we don't have a lot of amenities, and stuff, maybe we need to pay better. Maybe we need to spend a little bit more, but, again, that's just the first thing I would think of. But like I said, and we need to retain the really, really, really good teachers we have. And again, it comes back to we need to try to, there's a lot of things we need to do to try to keep our kids in our community, keep them coming back here, and to build this community back up. So, and again, I would say also we need to look at the curriculum, because Common Core is a joke. I mean, I tried to look into that myself and I couldn't make heads or tails of it, and it was crazy. So that's my opinion.
I see two big problems with our district right now, and it's a lack of leadership and a lack of accountability. Having said that, I don't know how the grade school teachers do what they do, because we've got a lot of kids coming in. It's a well-known fact that our disabled students coming in, there's a huge influx of them. And if we don't have the basis in the grade school to get our basic knowledge to those students, how are they ever going to excel? So we're short math teachers in high school. What good is it going to do our kids if they get to high school and they don't know how to do basic math? So to answer your question, Leslie, the first thing I would do to fix this problem is ask all the teachers at the elementary school, what do you need? What do you need to make this better? And then I'd be able to do something about it. I've talked to the teachers that have called school board members and nothing happened. That is me. If you get a call from a teacher, that's a teacher. If you get a call from a lot of teachers, that's a problem. And it's a problem that needs addressed, especially with our littles. They don't stand a chance if they don't learn the basics in grade school. Period. Now, we have all kinds of different kids. I can draw a straight line with a ruler. That's as far as I get. I admit that fully and freely. We've got kids that are free thinkers and free floaters and they love art. Fantastic. But we have to get them to where they can add 2 + 2. We have to get them to where they can read at a basic level. And if they're being distracted, if their grade school is not a safe place where they can focus on learning, it's not going to matter what we got for them at the high school. They're lost. So we need to fix it at the grade school, and our teachers are the key. They have the answer if we just listen.
Okay, because I am sensing that the public does not want to stay here all night. I'm going to end with one question for each of you. Oh, as a board member, what would you do to increase transparency and make school information more widely available? And if you all could keep the answers to your questions about it.
Well, I've said it several times, communication is key, transparency. The only thing I can tell you is they should all try to model themselves after Tyler Bartlett at the middle school. I've had nothing but good things about him. Anything that happened, I got a phone call or an email immediately. And as a board member, anytime you receive a phone call or an email from a parent, I think you should definitely take that into consideration and get back. And I will say, every time I've called a board member, I have received a call back. I do give them all props for that. But when you have parents that ask you specifically about something and you say, we discussed it, I look at the minutes. I've brought up several things to several board members that I'll guarantee you never made it the minutes. So if you're not discussing it in the school board meeting, how is that transparent? Were you just out in the parking lot? Did you just pick up the phone? These are the things the public needs to know. Because if I'm asking the questions, I'm not the only parent that has that concern or problem. It needs to be addressed, and it needs to be addressed in a public setting each and every time. That's how I look.
Stephen, your question. Many parents are concerned about being limited access to their children at the elementary school due to safety. We can no longer park our vehicles, and it sounds like I have an elementary school there. We can no longer park our vehicles and even walk to the sidewalk, let alone go to school to get our children or observe classroom activities. If you could change anything you wanted, what would your plan be to balance safety while allowing parents the freedom to observe their children in school?
Yeah, I know what people are talking about here, because, yeah, I've sat in that line and been basically yelled at a little bit, that, no, you need to move up here, don't get out of your car, circle around this way. And, yeah, it just makes me think about that old movie, or Mr. Mom, where, they yell at Michael Keaton because you're doing it wrong. And, so, I mean, yeah, it's hard. I mean, when it comes to the safety of our kids, I'm willing to accept a lot. But, you telling me I can't come to the school, you telling me I can't walk my kid up, yeah, you're gonna have a problem. And frankly, I'm an advocate that, I don't believe school should be gun-free zones. I don't. I believe, that we need to, look into having veterans and other people there to take care of, that are willing to volunteer maybe, or spend their time, protecting our children. So, but no, I don't believe there should be any parent limited or, refused access to the school.
Sean, what are the strengths or weaknesses of our local district, and what has our district done well in the past 2 years?
Strengths and weaknesses. Oh, shit, here. One thing about it, our coaches in our district. Are you talking about district and school or whole district? Like district number 7?
It's your question, you mean it's.
I guess they're a little clarity. I know, mobile. I think there's a lot of good things in our district. There's a lot of good things in our community. There are some bad things that I can point on is in our district, we need to focus a little bit more on drugs. I really do, I really know we have an issue. Just for being a landlord, and you all know what I own, and you want to talk about one of the toughest places, and we do have a problem in this district with drugs. If you don't think we don't, you're crazy. One thing about it, I think the law enforcement we need to communicate with law enforcement a little bit better, because it is so easy for our kids to access anymore. There's stories I've been hearing of kids Upton, overdose, just like a pen, from what I understand. I hope I'm not talking about school. Those are the bad things I see in our district. That's something that we're definitely going to have to address. I addressed this to the school board probably, this has been 10 years ago. And no offense, I mean, nobody really seen it, but it's here. And it is worse than you guys think. If you guys want to go down memory lane, I'm trying to burn every trailer house I can right now. If the camping trees, but it's bad. I've had law enforcement involved, and I'm only one person trying to clean the problem up for our kids. There's a lot of good things in our community or in our district. I think that we have great teachers in our district. We have great coaches in our district. I mean, we're shorthanded. I mean, you try to think of the positive, guys, you really do. We're shorthanded in the school, we're shorthanded bus drivers. I think some of the board members, they try to do the best they can with what they have. So that's all I got. Try to think something positive.
Tom, what are your thoughts on programs for special education and gifted students? Do you think students should be grouped by ability level? Why or why not?
I think our programs for special ed and are really pretty good. We get good results on the audits. We get varying results when we send kids somewhere. And it's a very difficult question to answer because some of that IEP information is properly confidential. And so you don't get to see that. Gifted and talented program is not strong, but I think we're doing it because we have a wide range of discussion about what is gifted and what is talented. And so we think that by trying to have some extra things, both in co-curricular events and in classrooms doing extra things, that we're trying to reach those people. Now, what was the last thing?
Do you think students should be grouped by ability level?
That's a pretty broad sweeping question.
I think they're talking about gifted and talented, kids being gifted and talented classes.
Well, yes, but you know, my experience would tell me that nearly every child is gifted in some way and talented in some ways. Now, how we're going to take Tom, that could do math pretty well and could never draw a horse, and he could sit with Lynn Thorpe and Dr. Crow and see them draw horses, and he's wanting to try to do it. It never worked out. So are we going to put me in one math class with David Kimport, if you will, to go back through the H's? And that's fine. But then I have no talent in art. I had no real talent in chorus. I thought it was fun to sing, but when I was in the 8th grade, just going to tell you this, doesn't take too long. Anyway, Anyway, Tom Dilson, there were 6 Toms in the 8th grade, and they were all studying. And they needed some boys to save them. So all 6 of us, Mr. Schmidt took over. At the end of the first day, Mr. Farrell took Tom Wright and Tom Dilson and put us in the other room, and he said, you know, if you can stay away from the window for the semester, you're going to get an A in course. I know that did. Now, that didn't make any difference in course. Okay? So by the time we look at 6 or 7 different subjects, the simplification of that is really involved. And so I think our present system does a reasonable job of trying to put kids where they go based on their talent. But I also know that it was helpful to me, and it was helpful to some of my kids to be in a class with people that were better than they were. Because they learned from it. And you see it on the ball field. You all have had that experience, I think. You know, it's one thing to have the teacher tell it, but it's another thing when he can sit here and show you. And she can sit here and show you, and you think, well, by golly, if the 2 of them can do it, maybe I'll pay a little attention over here. And so that grouping, ability grouping, is a pretty broad, sweep question. Now, if you were to ask me about any one subject, and we were in an ability group for 1 grade or 2 grades, then I might have to respond differently. But that's still in a minute and a half plus. That's where I am.
So, in your opinion, who are the school board's constituents, i.e. if elected, who would your boss be?
Well, I think I got the easiest one. It's the parents. You're in charge of this. We should do what the parents want us to do. The teachers are, their boss is the superintendent. It's pretty simple to me.
Stanley, what can be done to improve student achievement and ensure everyone who graduates is college ready and or technical trade school ready?
Well, again, I think this comes to a group effort, the teachers working with the parents and the students to understand where they're failing in certain levels and help supplement those levels so that they are able to comprehend what they need at the end of every year in the school, in the class level they're at. I think, in my senior year in high school, I waited all summer to see if I graduated because I wasn't really present in high school. I really thought I should have, but I was passed. And I think some teachers think that if I had stayed back in the system, I would have done worse than if I had passed and gone on. I think this is a thing that can only be dealt with on an individual basis as a student. And if somebody's falling behind, they should be given the opportunity to have tutoring and extra school programs or teachings. And the parents should be very involved in helping that process. Thank you.
And Tyler, when an issue has been brought to your attention, how will you show action in dealing with it? For example, many school board members tell everyone their hands are tied because they're only one person. How will that be different with you?
Give Joe the easy question. Well, I can understand as my grandfather has been a school board member, and I do know quite a few of the other board members of like, whether through family relations or seeing them act as board members. Being a board member, your hands are kind of tied when it comes to a parent's issue, as far as what Tom brought up earlier, a chain of command. You have to go to the teacher, you have to go to the principal, superintendent, and then it will be before the board. Now, are there special circumstances in which a board member can help a parent student with these issues? Yes, there is, and I am willing and open to talk with all parents, all community members who have issues, and but just know that I am not a final decision. As a board member, you are a decision. You have to talk to not only your constituents, but you have about these issues, but you also have to talk and implement your other board members in order to change anything. So my suggestion is voice your opinion to your board member. Show them so they have a legitimate reason to research and do what they need to do, and then you as a parent and or a constituent need to talk to the appropriate channels, teacher, principal, superintendent. And if it does go before the board and stuff, so be it. But I will do everything in my power to give you the right answer and stop saying our hands are tied.
All right, do we have any questions from the audience? All right.
Well, I just want to say thank you to all the candidates, because this is really fun to get to know all of you better, and I have a lot of thinking to do, and I hope everyone out here was able to get to know you better, and I really look forward to seeing you on the 18th. I think. I'm sensing.
I heard that no religion in school. I totally disagree. If you go back in history and read our founding fathers, that everything was based on God, country, and family. So why no religion? Is it because people are afraid to be able to talk about God? Because they're afraid that because you have an opinion about God and creation and who He is? You know, we talk about absolute truth. Great question. There's only one absolute truth, and that comes straight from the mouth of God. Amen. That's the absolute truth. Yeah. So if we're going to teach truth to our kids, they should know that they can find it in the Bible. There should be no reason. This whole thing, separation of church and state, has got to be dealt with, and we should deal with it on a very local level, right here in our own school. So I would say that we should reintroduce God back into our public schools. When did things start going downhill? Was it perhaps when they took the Bible out of the school? When they took prayer out of the school? All of these things that have influenced our kids for good have absolutely been removed from the curriculum. So I would suggest we review that. You new school board guys that are up here wanting to run, I'd like to know, would you agree on having some religion? I don't want religion. I want to be taught the real truth about God. Religion is a man-made thing. I want them to know that God is real and that He will help them in all those problems. Sean's talked a lot about these kids that struggle. I think a lot of the struggle is they have no core value when it comes to spiritual life.
Like Jack would just point out, like I said, one of the notes that I was jotting down here as a, you know, to the thing is, and I've heard that said as, you know, I actually wrote down, God should be allowed, you know, in my book. So I absolutely agree.
for teaching the Constitution in our schools. The Constitution says that our rights contained within the Constitution are bestowed upon us by our Creator. Our country was founded on Christian Judeo values. And yet, I believe at the very minimum, after the pledge, or before the pledge, there should be a moment of silence for those who do want in silence. Yes, we've gotten away from God in this country. That's one of the things under attack. Because they're attacking our religion and they're attacking our legal thing. And if they take both of those things away from us, then where do we have to turn? The government. So yes, I don't know the dynamics, but there should be a moment of prayer, either before or following the president of pledge of allegiance for those that choose to do that. And yes, we should promote the Constitution, not as racial documents, and our founding fathers not as racial deeds. The original sin of slavery in this country, no child was killed. We've atoned. We've spilled more blood in our country and the foreign soils across the world to atone for any sin of that original sin. Nobody in this country is guilty or responsible for the slavery that happened over 200 years in it. And our child and children and students should be made aware of it, not be made guilty. Yes, we've gotten away from God in this country, and that's one of our biggest problems. Thank you.
Any last words?
That's it.
That was great. Thank you all for coming. The next forum is on the 18th. It's on our website, the flyer, and that's being hosted by the Newcastle Education Association. And I'm not sure. I'm sorry, I don't need to be this. Delaware, Catholic, and the Newcastle Education Association. So, see y'all then. Thanks for coming.